Michelle Obama said that for 10 years of her marriage, she didn't like her husband.
Yes.
And everyone went nuts.
I know.
And I was like, well, duh.
Yeah. A lot of people ask about being in a relationship where there is a difference in people's like energy type. One is an introvert, one is an extrovert. And a lot of times the introverts feel like they are being overextended and they're getting resentments because they don't want to disappoint their partner.
I don't want to say opposites attract. I think we seek out in other people the thing that we want for ourselves. And then it becomes the opposite. If you can't be independently yourself in a relationship, it's hard to feel free.
What should we be getting from our partner in an ideal partnership?
I think what we all want is to find the balance between our freedom and our ability to stay connected. You start with, who do I want to be in this world? And does being in this relationship help me to achieve that goal?
What about cheating? Being married to an athlete, that tends to be a common thing that you hear about.
If you are the party who was cheated on, it really shakes your confidence and your approach to life and relationships. You got to make a choice.
I would love to start by just talking about your own experience. You know, you are a mom, you're a therapist, you have this wellness platform we've been talking about. You're also married to somebody very successful in their own right. So I'm curious how you stay true to you in all of that and like how you don't lose your identity.
That's a really good question. I feel like, it's been a journey. I think that the way that I kind of grew up, I would say, like my transition into adulthood was really, really rapid. And I feel like I had to do a lot of things and experience a lot of things that people my age back when I was just getting out of college were not even remotely thinking about.
Like what, if you don't mind me asking?
Like just traveling and moving across states, starting out a career, trying to finish school, my master's program, then doing my licensure program and being between states and not being able to settle into private practice and follow like what I thought was going to be my career trajectory at the time. I don't think I ever wanted to be so public. Like we talked about earlier, you told me that you're private. And I think I'm very private, and it's so hard, to find the line between how much to share and what to put out about my own life and how much I want to keep to myself. But I think that through all of those experiences, I used to be crappy about putting myself first and doing things that were beneficial to me and not really worrying so much about the pressures of anyone else or the expectations of the outside world. I think that I had to go through a period where I experienced a lot of resentment. And I feel like at the end of the day, what I learned from that experience was that I was bringing it on myself. I was doing all these things. Nobody was making me. I wanted to be here for this one, that one, for my relationship. I wanted to I was just jumping, headfirst into everything, not really thinking about how the long-term effects would be on me. And then once I realized that and I was constantly being disappointed, I decided, nope, that's not for me anymore. I'm just going to do things that I want to do and I'm going to prioritize myself. And I feel like I really didn't get that until after I had my son. I think motherhood puts a lot of things in perspective for us a lot of times. And so I definitely would say that was the biggest motivating factor in the change or evolution of my mindset when it comes to that.
Yeah, I've been really open about the fact that I don't want kids, but sometimes I envy people that do have kids because they all say that, it's a big turning point because suddenly like the attention is off of yourself and your own resentments and all of these little things. And suddenly you have something else that you have to put all of your energy into. And it's very like freeing, I think.
Yeah. Like you get an excuse to not have to do things. Like kids are always a way out.
Oh, that sounds great. Sold.
There's no my kid, like we have this, I can't. It's the kids, So they're a good excuse
The
to get out of
dream.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
that's the biggest, the main thing you'll be
yeah.
not getting a chance to experience
Yeah.
is blaming it on the kids.
I mean, that sounds great. I mean, I heard you talk about the fact that you're an introvert, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are with somebody who is a very public person, has a very public job, and attracts a lot of attention all the time. So when you were talking about those resentments, was it because of that dynamic and feeling like you had to be on all the time? I know that you've said you felt like you had to be kind of performative, and I can relate to that as well. I was married to somebody who was in the public eye behind the scenes, so not to the extent that your husband is, but it was a lot of like this function, that function, these people, and I'm an introvert as well, and it's like extremely draining.
I know it is. And I mean, I feel like that's probably a small part of my experience, but yeah, going out and doing things um just out of feeling like it was out of necessity and not really a choice that I was making and being intentional about, I think was definitely one of the small ways in which I kind of lost myself because no, I mean, if it's up to me, I would never leave my house.
Yeah, same.
So,
Same.
so yeah, definitely was a small part. And I feel like, the decisions that I was making, I'm such a perfectionist and I have such a type A personality. I no longer do. I'm a recovering type A personality person. I'm also a Capricorn. So I was always really efficient. I was always on top of things. I've always been a high achiever. And I think that I was making choices and doing things that didn't quite align with who I really am. And I feel like I did that for many reasons. One being that I just wasn't valuing my own opinion and my own feelings over other people. I would put other people first and what they would want first in all of my relationships and friendships, in my marriage, in any kind of scenario where there's a relationship. And I would kind of be disappointed when I didn't get that reciprocal amount of energy and time that I put into my relationships. And I feel like because I'm an overachiever and because I'm a perfectionist, like once I'm in something, I'm in it and I will do, the most to make sure that I'm showing up the best way that I can in that relationship. And so that I think was the thing I had to learn to taper down is like how much energy and time do I have to spend on this and how much like what's the check there has to be checks and balances, right? Am I getting or receiving anything from this relationship that's valuable and that would constitute me putting then that much effort into it, And I feel like that it's always figuring out what that balance is.
Yeah, where do you think that came from? Because I can be the same way. Like, I think that I historically have been kind of a people pleaser. And when I peel the layers back on that, I think it comes from a fear of abandonment, and it's kind of this anxious attachment stuff that I've worked a lot on. But where do you think yours came from? Do you think it was just that high achieving and like you really value the relationship, so you're going to do everything?
Of course not.
Oh.
I mean, that's a really good question. I feel like as an adult, I've really done a lot of work looking back into my childhood and trying to understand a little bit better about why I function or process things the way that I do. And I will say, like, I was a competitive basketball player when I was young. I mean, I was competitive anything. I played soccer and basketball mainly when I was young. And my dad was very, very, like, competitive. And not that he was, I mean, maybe competitive isn't the right word, but he was very strong in his push and for me and my pursuit of sports. And I mean, at the time, it wasn't really a problem, but I feel like growing up playing sports at such a high level and being expected to achieve as much as I was expected to achieve, not only in sports, but in life. I'm the only girl growing up in a family of all three boys. My brothers were always a little off the chain. Like there were so much going on constantly that my parents were navigating. And so I wanted to be the little ray of sunshine all the time. And that meant not making any waves, being on top of things, making sure that I was a straight A student, making sure that I was the best at any sport that I played. And I felt like I wanted to please my parents and please my dad. And I think that's where that sort of generated.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I feel like all of our childhood stuff plays out in our relationships when we get older, and you usually get faced with a situation where you either have to confront it or, just keep going. And for me, it was getting sober. And when I got sober, I had so many resentments, and I had to basically do this exercise where I went back and I looked at all of the resentments and looked at my part. And a lot of times my part was not asserting myself. So back to what you were saying about like, you had a choice, like, I don't have to do these things anymore. And that was a turning point for you. And it was same with me. I was like, oh, I can like tell people, if something that they're doing is like bothering me or affecting me, or like, I don't have to put myself in that situation anymore. So when you got to that place, was that a turning point for you as well? And like, what changed after that?
I mean, how freeing is that though?
Yeah.
To just it's like a aha moment, right?
For sure.
When you just realize, oh, I don't have to do that.
Yeah. It sounds so simple, but it's so much harder because there's so many things that come into it, like we're talking about,
I mean, it's just it's developing a strong sense of self, and like not only developing boundaries, but being able to like implement them in a way that that you're going to disappoint someone else is going to be upset. And you got to make a choice. Either they're going to be pissed off or you're going to be pissed off. And so you can pick, right? And I feel like one day I just decided I can't let other people piss me off anymore. I just want to be happy. Yeah, so from that moment on, I was like, I'd rather you be mad than me be upset or uncomfortable. And I'm okay with that. And once I came to peace with that notion, then everything else kind of fell into place from there.
And at this point, were you with Russell? Were you married? Or
I've been with Russell, I never remember, maybe like 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's kind of been there.
Yeah.
Half my life.
Yeah. Was he supportive of that? Because I have so many people who listen to the show, and whenever I do relationship episodes and ask them to send in questions, a lot of people ask about being in a relationship where there is a difference in people's like energy types. Like one is an introvert, one is an extrovert. And a lot of times the introverts feel like they are being overextended and they're getting resentments and they're not setting boundaries because they don't want to disappoint their partner. Like this is such a common dynamic. I'm an introvert, and I somehow like, I got divorced. I've been with someone for like a year and a half, and he is like the extrovert of all extroverts. He has an endless social battery. It's like, and we have found, what works for us. But how did that work in your relationship? Was he just supportive? Like when you're like, okay, I'm not going anymore.
I will say this, and I think that happens a lot. I feel like we always, I don't want to say opposites attract. I think we seek out in other people the thing that we want for ourselves. And then it becomes the opposite.
Yeah. That's like,
once we get it and we see it, it's more like maybe you would like to be a little bit more free and extroverted and like enjoy going out and being in social settings. So that's what attracted you to him. Like, it's really interesting the way our brains work like that. But I feel like there's always growing pains with anything. I will say I've been very fortunate to have a partner who shares the same mindset as I do. I mean, we've been together, like I said, I think it's 18 years. It could be a little bit longer. I don't remember. But I feel like we were kids when we met. I mean, we've become a new person at least 5 times since we've been together. So long story short is yes, Russell's very accepting of the evolution of me. There are growing pains and there's always going to be something that needs to be overcome. It's kind of like, and here's another kid reference. Our kids, when they're young, like they change like every 3 months. And just when you think that you have it figured out, like shit hits the fan again. And then you have to readjust and adopt and figure it out all over again. It's the same with our relationships, right? We're going to grow, especially over that amount of time. I'm 36 and I've been with my partner for half my life, literally. And so, who I was when I was 18, I was probably like, I have no idea who the heck I thought I was. When I go back and like think about some of the things that I did and said, I'm like, I don't even recognize that person because I've evolved and I've grown and I've changed just so much since then. And he's been along that journey and supportive of it, you know, throughout all of it. Because at the end of the day, as long as we're both understanding and knowing that this is a part of the journey and that we will change, it's more about being open and receptive to who we are becoming as individuals and how that works in our relationship.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like you have to be growing in the same direction? Because people are going to grow. It's a matter of, are you growing together or are you growing apart?
You know, it's so funny that you say that because I was thinking about this recently. My husband and I never grow at the same pace. We kind of, it's like, it's one of these guys. Like I go through some evolution and change, and then he goes through something, and then we just keep going and going and going. And it's so funny because sometimes when you're sitting in that space where you're like waiting for the other person to like meet you where you
Catch up.
are, it can be challenging and it can be stressful. But then, you know, something that really worked for me was therapy. And I think that when you are working on yourself constantly and you have such a clear understanding of self, it's so much easier to recognize and see in other people the way that they're going through their process and allow the time and the space for that growth.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about how, you know, you're responsible for your own happiness. And I think that a lot of us fall into the trap that our partner is responsible for our happiness, at least partially. I mean, people always fight me when I've had therapists and relationship experts on who have said that, like, no, you are 100% responsible for your happiness. They're like, no, but your partner should make you happy. It's like, yes, but they're not your source, right? So can we dive into that a little bit? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'll share the same sentiment. I mean, it's like, do you want to have control over your emotional like being and wellness, or do you want to give that control to someone else? And just think about it in that way. My kids call me the calm queen because now granted, that's a huge compliment because they think that I'm calm. And in my mind, I'm like enraged and I'm trying my best not to go crazy on people. But, and when I say people, I mean them, but they refer to me as calm. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right because all the little stuff that's inside, they're not picking up on that. But I think that it's the same lesson that I teach them all the time. They can have little 6-year-old drama in their friendships at school, or you can have relationship troubles and drama in your relationship. And when you rely on your partner or someone else to create that happiness for you, then they can also take it away. And it's just giving too much power to other people over who you are and how you're feeling, right? There's just no reason to give that much of yourself up when you can have all the control. And it's all about shifting your perspective and changing the way you view things and look at situations. That's the biggest thing that we can do.
So what's the distinction? Like, what should we be getting from our partner in an ideal partnership? Obviously, you have a successful relationship. So if we're not getting happiness, quote unquote, from our partner, then what are we looking for?
I mean, that's going to look different for everyone. I would say for me, or some of the like foundational things that I think we could all be seeking in a partner is feelings of support and just comfort and like a safe place to land. The last thing that is going to bring us comfort is a relationship where we can't be freely ourselves. I think it exerts energy. We're introverts, right? So when you leave the house, you were talking about being performative. And I 1000% feel like I'm performative a lot of the time because really I just want to kick back and relax and just not really have to say anything and just observe and think about everything that I see happening
Yeah.
and not say anything.
That's me.
So I think that when that exerts a lot of energy, right? When you go out and you want to be social, maybe you're going with your boyfriend, you're going to a party to hang out with his friends, and you don't want to be like that chick sitting in the corner looking like that at everybody, like with everything going on
like,
in your brain. But it takes too much energy to not be fully yourself and comfortable in a relationship. So if you're having to perform in your relationship, then that doesn't feel like it's sustainable to me. So I think that is the huge key also, is just being able to be yourself and someone who's going to accept you for who you are. There's a difference between having boundaries in your relationship and having expectations for the other person to do for you. So I think it's finding the balance and figuring out what it is that makes you feel safe and supported. It's partnership.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, in my relationship, I did all the things in the beginning and I still do sometimes, but I was like, I understand, like, you go out to dinner every night, because that's his business. Like, he needs to network and then his family lives here. And so we're always doing family stuff and it's great. But I'm like, I just need like X amount of nights at home with you. Like, even if it's 2 nights a week, cooking, doing nothing, catching up, having that like quality time where we're really connecting. Because otherwise, I told him, I'm like, I feel really disconnected when it's just like go, 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 And we do that. And then we have like a date night out. And then the rest of the nights, it's whatever. And I'll see my friends or I'll do nothing. I'm really into jigsaw puzzles at the moment. Like 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles. Nobody talk to me, put on a podcast. And like, that's my, yeah. And it works for us. We've found like a nice balance.
That's good. And
Yeah.
that's like the perfect example of asking for what you need and what works in your relationship. And I feel like 2 nights in that's not asking a lot.
No.
I feel like that's pretty solid.
I know. I was like, ideally 4, but we can
I'll take 2.
We'll work up to that. Yeah. Another thing you've talked about is, the fact that relationships are work. And this is another thing that people love to try to pick apart. What is the work versus what is fighting for something that is maybe not going to work?
That's actually that is such a challenging question because I think it varies per person. And every time someone asks me this question, because I do get asked a lot, I think of that time Michelle Obama said that for 10 years of her marriage, she didn't like her husband.
Yes.
And everyone went nuts.
I know.
And I was like, well, duh.
Yeah.
I mean, think about every single person in your life. Think about your parents. I mean, did you like your parents? Have you liked them your whole life? Or did they get on your nerves at some point? And these are like the people that we have the most unconditional love for. It's kind of hardwired into us, right? It's a relationship we didn't get to choose for a lot of people. Sometimes they're great and healthy and sometimes they're not. And even in the unhealthy ones, we still crave that connection and we miss it dearly if we don't have that, right? So how can we expect to get along and be happy and like hunky-dory and lovey and like not get on someone's nerves when you're in a relationship, especially in a long-term relationship? Of course, there has to be some work that goes into a relationship. And I think that you determine between something that's healthy and something that might not be so healthy based on how the intent and how someone makes you feel and who you want to be in a relationship. And I think that you start with who you want to be. You decide, who do I want to be in this relationship, and who do I want to be in this world? And does being in this relationship help me to achieve that goal? Because sometimes the goals don't align. And I think it's most important to be yourself in a relationship before you can do anything else in the relationship. And so seeking out a partner who allows that is really important. Like we talked about earlier, just that someone to let you be 100% yourself and authentic.
I had a therapist who I was seeing last year, kind of when I was like newly dating my boyfriend, because I went pretty quickly from my marriage to this relationship. It just kind of happened, although we had been separated and it was like the marriage was, over for a while. But I was kind of navigating this new thing, and the therapist was like, there's three entities in the relationship. There's you, there's the partner, and then there's the relationship itself. And you need to treat the relationship like the third entity. Like, just because there's two people together doesn't mean that the relationship is just going to like function on its own. You need to both put effort into this third entity and put the work in, right? You're nodding your head like, yes. And I've heard you talk about like, it's not 50-50, right? It's 100% from both people at all times.
I mean, I think that relationship, I like to talk about externalizing things, right? So if there's a problem within a relationship, we externalize that problem, and then both parties have to work together to rectify it, right? Because it becomes a problem when one person has an issue. And I think a lot of times in a relationship, sometimes if something is impacting only one person, then the other one doesn't think that they need to be involved in fixing that thing or rectifying that situation, right? And that's not true. So I think what your therapist was talking about is this idea that, again, with the expectations, like you can have expectations for yourself, but it's not great to put expectations on other people, because that's how you'll get disappointed. And then you also don't want other people putting expectations onto you, right? You can have expectations for your relationship and how you would like to see your relationship working. And it's something that is always going to need time, energy, and effort. And so I don't know that we put 100% into our relationships at all times. I will tell you, I'm in a season where I'm not putting 100% into my marriage right now, because my husband lives in another state. I'm launching a new business. I'm taking care of my 3 kids. Life is lifing. So that percentage of time going into my marriage is probably a little less, just because I'm so spread thin. It doesn't change anything about my marriage or my relationship. He's probably putting in 100% into our marriage right now because he has more capacity, right? And so this is kind of it. It ebbs and flows, and as long as there's a commitment to the relationship by both parties, and you both equally take ownership and responsibility over the relationship, that is the 100% commitment, or the 100% number that you want to have is the commitment level to maintaining a homeostasis within the relationship.
Yeah, I was thinking of another thing my therapist said. He's getting a lot of airtime in this episode, but not having the bandwidth to do 100% in everything. And I'm a very like visual person. I need someone to explain it to me like I'm a kid sometimes. And he's like, the grass is greener where we water it. We hear that all the time. It's like, great. And he's like, but you don't have an infinite amount of water. So you need to take from other areas sometimes. And sometimes it does mean that you're giving less to your work because you're giving more to your kids and your husband, or you're taking less from your, marriage and you're putting it into whatever it is. Like, it's a constant juggling, I think, and like reallocation of that water to make things work, because we're also like, we only have so much energy, like
we
capacity.
only have so much energy and capacity. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think you go through different seasons, and we all go experience this. If you're launching a new business, and you're probably going to put a lot of your time into that. Anyone who is an entrepreneur or small business owner of any sorts knows exactly what I mean. It takes, like, there's no 40-hour work week, right? And so, sometimes I could be experiencing things that with my kids, and I might notice one of my kids needs a little bit more time or attention, or I need to allocate a little bit more time there. Sometimes my marriage needs a little bit more time. Sometimes I need a little more time. So, like you said, it's the constant reallocating, and like you have to reflect. You have to continuously think through how the system is running and decide what is most important to get the priority. What you have to determine what the priority needs to be at that moment.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, you always start with yourself is what I've learned. I would say it's really, that's a difficult thing to put into practice for me personally. But as long as I'm constantly aware and I'm always reminding myself, I need to do something for me. I need to do something for me. And it could be really simple things, but just taking a little bit of time for myself and for my body. Like, you're going to go work out after this, and I'm very proud of you, because I've been struggling to get in the gym. It's not good. So kudos to you. But I think that it's just being in tune with how you're feeling and being in tune with your relationships and checking in constantly is what helps us to kind of reallocate that energy.
You talked about rectifying things. Do you think everything is rectifiable?
Oh my gosh. Is this the therapist in me talking, or is this just Nina talking?
Either.
I do. Honestly, I don't know why and what it is. I feel like I just have so much grace for people. Like I said, once I'm in something, I'm truly in it. And I don't know if I would call it making a lot of excuses for people or for situations, but I do believe that if I have the capacity, I will allocate however much capacity I have to extend grace to someone who's going through something. As far as rectifying relationships, I don't know. It just depends on if that I feel like there's a purpose for this relationship in my life, or is it just something that is taking from me. Sometimes there's a point in a relationship with a friend maybe that who might be going through something, and your role in that relationship is to be support and to offer support, and maybe you're not getting too much in return at that time. But like I said, everything is through seasons. Like, we're not going to drop that friend because they're going through a period in their life where they're having a hard time and they need more support than they have to offer. So it's something, especially when there's a history of that friend being respectful or being supportive or reaching out or being there for you during your time of need, right? That's just called reciprocity. And so I think evaluating, things and constantly reflecting on your relationships is a good way to determine if something is worth rectifying. It just there can be endless possibilities. But as a plain and simple answer, I don't believe in burning bridges. I think that even though we grow apart and we maybe aren't as close with some people in our lives, you never know what the future holds, right? And there's a way to gracefully and peacefully bow out and take space rather than ghosting and doing mean things.
What about cheating? This is something that a lot of people ask about. And I'm sure in your world, not in your relationship, but, being married to an athlete, that tends to be a common thing that you hear about, at least.
It's definitely a stereotype, a bad rep that athletes get.
Yeah. I feel like that would be so hard just with the schedules and always being gone. And like, you have to have a lot of confidence and security in yourself to be in that relationship. And you clearly do. But in general, what is your view on cheating? I feel like this is something that's happening so much, maybe because of like the accessibility of people now with the apps. Like, I hear so much and I see with my friends that are single, like these guys just will not commit, or they're always looking at what else is out there. And it's not always the guys, it's women too sometimes. But What is your view on that? And, does it just depend on the people, like if and the commitment and the intention of the relationship?
I mean, if the question is, do I think a relationship can be rectified after cheating? I mean, short answer is yes. I'm a huge Esther Perel fan. I'm sure you know who anyone in wellness would know who she is. She talks about relationships and cheating in a way that, you know, can certainly be rectified. And I think that it comes down to whether or not both parties are willing to put in the time and the energy and the effort in order to move forward. Anytime trust is broken in a relationship, it's really hard to regarnish and establish trust in a relationship, especially after cheating. So I think it can happen as long as both parties are extremely committed in improving in the relationship. Short answer.
Yeah, I feel like I would not be able to rectify that.
And that's a very real thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, you wouldn't want to rectify things with me after you cheated on me. I don't think you would survive because it would be a challenge and you'd have to really be up for a good fight. So.
Yeah. I mean, my boyfriend and I had a conversation after I had another guest on maybe a year ago who was talking about cheating. And this guest said, like, you can have a conversation with your partner and establish, like, what is cheating to you, first of all, because we might have different ideas of what is cheating. And then, you can go from there and like talk about, is that something that you think you would be able to get over? My boyfriend was like, yeah, I would get back together with you. I'm like, what?
That is
okay.
That is really interesting.
Yeah. And I was like, never.
Yeah.
It's like, I just can't because I have too much like past stuff. Like, I just know that I wouldn't be able to trust
rebuild
ever
the
again.
trust.
No, I'd be like, what are you doing on your phone? Like, what? Like, I just have that hypervigilance already from like old trauma, I think.
And that's the thing. Like, it's so hard when I think one of the biggest things that people experience if you are the party who was cheated on is becoming someone that you didn't intend to be, right? It really shakes your confidence. It really shakes your security. And it really shakes, just everything and your approach to life and relationships. And you kind of turn into this person who you almost at the end of it don't even recognize. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people because that's the thing that we have control over. And unfortunately, the actions of someone else really really deeply impacts you in a way that takes you away from being yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's like a trauma in some ways because I heard somebody say once, like, it's denying you of your reality, like when that happens to you, because you think that your reality is one thing and then you find out that it's not.
Yeah, you start to question everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm way too paranoid for that. I want to finish on codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Is codependency ever healthy in a relationship and to what extent? Or is it just called something else when it's the healthy version?
Codependency. I feel like codependency was the first therapy speak word that we really went viral, I guess I can say, even before narcissist.
I was going to say.
Like it was like it's the OG therapy speak word. No, I don't think that codependence can be healthy. And the reason I say that is because I think independence is necessary in relationships. If you can't be independently yourself in a relationship, then it's hard to feel free. And I think what we all want is like we're trying to find the balance between our freedom and our ability to operate and live our own lives and make our own choices and decisions, and how to also stay connected to someone or a relationship, or it could be even with family. It's something that we kind of learn as we grow. We learn to leave the nest. The process starts when we're just babies. First, we learn the skills that we need to learn, and then we want to figure out how to do all of it on our own, and we don't want help. And then we realize, oh, maybe we do need a little bit of help. And then we like tiptoe back into that independence again, right? Around 18. And then, I mean, now it's like 23. But I think, and then it's like, so now how do I feel safe and I feel like good about who I am. I'm in a decent place. Now, how do I open up enough to let other people become part of my decision making process and let other people have influence over my life in a safe way that I can still maintain my independence. And I think that's what the balance becomes as we grow older and in relationships, because again, it's up to you to create your own happiness. And so that's what you have to do. And in order to do that, you have to be an independently thinking person.
Yeah, that's like the theme that I'm getting from this whole conversation, which is refreshing because I think that we do often hear conflicting information about, focusing on other people first and things like that. And
no, not you won't hear it from me.
Not from you.
I'm all about putting myself first.
Yeah, I love that though, because at the end of the day, like you're stuck with you, right?
I'm stuck with me, and I'm doing don't get me wrong, have so much that I'm navigating and juggling. I'm responsible for 3 humans and a dog. And I also am responsible for a relationship and my relationships with everyone else in my life. And so I think that if I didn't take care of me first and if I didn't put myself first, then I would just be too spread thin and I wouldn't be able to show up in those relationships in the best way that I can. And I really learned that honesty has been a huge part of my journey. Like I will full disclosure anything prior to any environment or situation and say, this is what you can expect from me, and set the table. Even when I don't feel like doing things and I do it because I know deep down it's going to help fill my cup, like going to a late night dinner with girlfriends. Like I don't want to go out when it's dark. I don't want to leave my house when it's dark. But I know when I get there and I see my girls that it's going to be a good reset for me. So it's just the battle is getting out the door. But when I sit down, I'm like, I'm tired. I don't have too much to contribute, but lay it on me. Like I'm just going to drink my wine and like sit back and be my normal self and stare at you and nod, and you love me anyways for it, So that helps me to fill my cup. And I think that's the balance.
I love that. I'm going to start doing that too. And I can relate a lot because I don't want to do anything ever at all. And then I do things and then I'm like driving home and I'm like, I'm so happy. I feel so good. Like I feel that my cup is full again. And then I have amnesia and I forget. And the next day I have something and I'm like, I don't want to do it. But I have to remember that is the battle, is getting there. But I like laying out expectations and just being really upfront. Well, where can everybody find you? You have an amazing podcast as well and a wellness platform.
Yeah. I am, oh my gosh, the shout out thing for Instagram. You can follow me at Nina Westbrook on Instagram and Benet by Nina with an X, Benet X Nina on Instagram for my wellness platform. And you can tune into my podcast, Do Tell Relationship Podcast, where we talk all about relationships all the time. So that's fun. Anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That was so
fun. Yeah.